Good afternoon and a warm welcome to our dedicated network provider attorneys of the Dooley Noted Law Firm, Katherine Gonyea and Courtney Corky Smith, joining us today. We are deeply grateful for your time and your expertise and your commitment to standing with the families and communities affected by this devastating hill country flooding. Your presence here is not only a testament to your professionalism, but also your compassion. The seminar is for legal rights and recovery, navigating the aftermath of the hill country flooding. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you guys do expertise-wise and how this seminar is going to allow us to benefit some of the victims of this flood, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. We're glad to be here today. My name is Corky Smith. I'm with the Dooley Noted Law Firm out of Waco, Texas. We are a full service practice and we provide legal services to individuals and business across the Southeast. We've been in operation for a number of years. Specifically, we've done a lot of disaster recovery assistance for individuals and businesses. We've handled everything from hurricanes to flooding, hail damage, winter storm damage, tornadoes, and the full range of disasters that people are unfortunate enough to experience. And so what we want to do today is we want to help shed some light on processes, on rights, and things available to you as individuals and businesses as you're going through this difficult time. Before we start, we would like to say that our hearts go out to all the members of the community who have been affected by this. Our thoughts, our prayers, and our heartfelt prayers go out to you, and we want to be an asset for you. We want to be able to help you, guide you through this process. I know you have a lot of questions going through your minds right now. I know there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of uncertainty going on, and we want to address all those with you today. We want to help you take the first step. We want to follow you all the way along the process, and we want you to help get back to how you were before this awful event.
Thank you, Courtney. Katherine?
Yeah, hi, this is Katherine. I'm also an attorney. I work with Corky at Duly Noted Law. As Corky said, we are a full service firm located in the Waco area where our main office is, but we've got attorneys all over Texas and the southeast of the United States. And I just want to echo what Corky said. I'm a native Texan born and raised. Went to college in Austin, live in the Austin area now, and we all know what a special and beautiful place this is and how tragic and devastating these floods have been to everyone in the surrounding areas. And I just want to echo again what Corky said. Our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers are certainly with everyone as they're walking this tragic experience. And we hope that this webinar will be of assistance to you to be able to help you start moving in the right direction, to start piecing things together, as difficult as that may seem at this moment.
Thank you. And LegalEASE would definitely like to extend our condolences to the family members and the ones that have lost children, which is just devastating. Before we begin, we want to take a moment to acknowledge the profound loss and heartbreak that the community has endured. This flooding has taken homes, livelihoods, and most tragically, the lives of family members. We honor their memory today and extend our deepest sympathy to every family grieving. Yet in the face of this unimaginable tragedy, we also have witnessed extraordinary resilience. Neighbors helping neighbors, first responders risking their lives, and volunteers showing up with open hearts. This webinar is designed for victims of this catastrophic event with a focus on legal issues and disaster recovery as a part of that collective effort to provide clarity, support, and a path forward for those navigating the legal and emotional aftermath of this disaster. Let's get started. So next steps after a flood, our experienced attorneys will share their insight, and what you will learn is about your legal rights after a natural disaster, insurance claims process, filing for government assistance, your rights as a renter after a disaster, support and legal guidance for families of the deceased, probate, when is it necessary, and we'll also provide you with some resources and support contacts. First question, what are your legal rights as a flood victim in Texas?
Thank you, Charlie. I'm going to jump in on this one. So, a lot of concerns that people have in navigating this area is want to know what all rights you have. Has anything changed? Is anything different? Are there special rights? And so it all depends on the circumstances in which you find yourself. If you're, for instance, a renter, you have certain rights that are different from a homeowner. The same as any other property owner, you have different rights. So I'm going to start with sort of what your rights are as far as being a renter. So any renter is entitled to habitable conditions, and this significant flooding, the rain, the damage that we've caused could render the property that you live in uninhabitable. All right. The first step that you want to do in making sure that your rights are protected is you want to give written notice to your landlord. All right. This can be done with a letter, a note, but you want to make sure that you have writing, not only so the landlord knows, but in the event something comes up down the line, you want to make sure that you have some sort of evidence that you put your landlord on notice. All right. This needs to make sure that you include in any claim that you have to that you may have failed to properly terminate the lease, or that you need to move, or anything along those lines. All right, we'll go into this a little bit more detail. We're also going to provide you with some resources that you can use and reference as far as what your rights are as a renter. Now, as a homeowner, if you have flood insurance, you need to make sure that you immediately file a claim under your flood insurance. All right. If you don't have a copy of your policy, we'll sort of address how you go about making sure that you make that claim. All right. You also want to contact your homeowner's insurance to see what options are available under your policy. Now, flood insurance and homeowner's insurance are two different things, but you may have some availabilities under your home insurance if you don't have flood insurance. Now, it's important to remember you can avail yourselves to disaster relief once you're in the area, and that applies to any case that you have, but you want to make sure that you have a disaster declaration. All right. And this is a landscape that kind of changes as more time passes. The first declarations that came out in this were limited to certain counties. There's been more counties that have been disaster declarations, and that is a disaster declaration that comes from the President of the United States. It's requested through the state of Texas. So you want to make sure that if you're making any sort of claim for disaster relief, that you're within those disaster declared counties. All right. I believe as of today, there are 22 counties in the state of Texas where there has been an official disaster declaration, but we do expect that to change as more and more information is provided.
Thank you, Corky. Next question, what application should you complete for disaster relief and insurance claims? And is there any tax relief for flood victims?
Yes. So this is.
Go ahead, sorry, Corky.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to say this kind of follows along with what we were saying about what your legal rights are, how you have the claims process that works. So if you have a flood insurance claim, this pertains to if you have flood insurance. All right. So this is contained in your policy information. It includes information such as what's the time and the date that the water started to enter. You can usually find this from your local weather service. If you have a cell phone, you can generally find this on any sort of weather app. There's a ton of different information, but all this information is consolidated. It's kept through FEMA. It's kept through the Texas Department of Emergency Management. And you'll want to make sure that you call your insurance provider to start the claim process. All right. So the more pictures you have, the more videos you have of everything, the better. Now, this can be anything, the walls, the floor, the furniture, fixtures, foundation, the yard, the roof, cars, personal property, any sheds that you have. Any pictures and videos are great. The more you have, the better. All right. It's additionally good to have receipts or any documentation, because that helps show what cost you have in there. Provide that as well. The more documentation you have, the better. You can't have too much, I promise you. And remember, as far as a flood policy is concerned, it goes into effect 30 days after it's purchased. All right. And once you have the claims process that's resolved through the flood insurance, if you don't have that, you go through the same process through your homeowner's insurance. All right. Now, only after you've gone through this process can you then apply to FEMA for any sort of disaster relief. All right. This is very important to remember because you can't do FEMA until you have exhausted your insurance policy remedies. All right. This is very important because you don't want to run afoul of any potential fraud that you might have. All right. So we've kind of gone over the flood insurance aspect. We've gone over the FEMA aspect a little bit. But another remedy that you might have is the Small Business Administration. Everybody calls it the SBA. All right. So the SBA process is important to remember because an SBA process is different from FEMA. All right. FEMA is disaster relief that operates much like a grant does, but the SBA is actually loans. All right. This is an important distinction because you have to pay the loan back. I know everybody understands that. I know everybody does that, but I want to stress that just to make sure that we have a full understanding of that. All right. After you've gone through that, you can look at the Texas Division of Emergency Management and also the National Guard. All right. They work hand in hand on disaster relief. All right. So you want to make sure that you look to them next. There's also local emergency management contingencies. So we've got FEMA on the national level. We've got the Texas Division of Emergency Management and the National Guard on the state level. But you also have county and regional emergency management contingencies. That's another level that you can look at as well. All right. It's important to next look at for certain types of property owners, for certain people with certain interests, such as ranchers or farmers. You can look at the state of Texas agriculture relief. This is an important fund that exists out there just for these circumstances. All right. The USDA also provides grants and programs that are administered through the Rural Development Agency, which is a subset of the USDA. All right. You also want to check local community resources for day-to-day items. These include Salvation Army, the Red Cross, things that people are more familiar with. And also it's important to remember you can call 211 because that can assist you with housing, low-cost housing, relocation, shelter information, things of a temporary nature. And next, it's important that we'll look at tax relief. So, Katherine, we'll turn it over to you, see if you can give a quick rundown of some of the tax relief that we have that's available for some of these individuals.
Yeah, thanks, Corky. So there typically is going to be some tax relief that's available from the IRS as it relates, specifically going to be to the postponement of certain tax filings and tax payment deadlines. There may also be the possibility of an abatement for penalties during this time that the IRS sets for specific disasters. It's really important to check with the IRS directly. I just looked into this yesterday, and as of now, there hadn't been any specific declarations, but as Corky mentioned earlier, things are going to be ever changing in terms of what's coming down at a state and federal level. So if you check with the IRS, and absolutely feel free to give them a call. And something else to keep in mind, especially in terms of loss, which is very significant here, there may be tax deductions that you may be able to include on your tax return for the 2025 year when you're filing your taxes next year that may also reduce your tax liability. Like I said, the IRS has not specifically issued anything as of today, but I anticipate that is absolutely going to change. So it's certainly something that you can work with the IRS directly on. You can find this information on their website. If you've got a CPA, they might be able to help you with that as well. But it's certainly something you want to look into because, again, for businesses and for individuals, an abatement and penalties is going to be helpful. relief from quarterly tax payments is absolutely going to be helpful. And the IRS will set that guideline, and it will typically flow with the time period in which the disaster declaration is in effect in the areas. And as Corky said, I believe it's up to 22 counties at this point.
Thank you, guys. That's a lot of information, very valuable. So you kind of covered some of this already, and so feel free to elaborate a bit. But what documents do you need to file a flood insurance claim, and what if you don't have flood insurance?
Great. And that's a great question. We get to ask this all the time. So I'm going to kind of address it from what agency or what organization that you're going through. All right. So everyone's pretty familiar with FEMA, at least with the existence of it. All right. So FEMA has a standard form procedure. All right. So FEMA disaster relief applications is a form procedure. They're wonderful to work with, which is great, because the last thing you need is an extra headache filling out some of these forms. But FEMA has a standardized procedure that you work with. These can be found online. You can get copies of them, paper copies of those, through the local FEMA office that's usually set up in these counties. The state version of that has copies of these. The National Guard has copies of these as well. So they're pretty easy to get your hands on them. And like I said, it's a pretty standardized, it's pretty simplified. You walk through the procedure, it's very self-explanatory. If you ever need any help with any of these, we're happy to help you, walk you through the process. So next, I'll kind of address how the SBA works. Again, it's important to remember the SBA only offers disaster loans, very different from FEMA. I know I sound like a broken record on that, but I just want to make sure that point is understood. So the SBA also has standardized forms and applications as well. Those come through the same channels. You can find those through some of your state level emergency management authorities, along with your county levels. Also, if your local bank or your local financial institution does work with the SBA, they can provide these to you as well to actually get a copy of these forms. It's also on their websites. And other organizations, it's a little bit different, but it all depends on what you're trying to get and what the procedure is. But just in general, you want to make sure that you have documentation of ownership or presence at the location. Now, this includes deeds, leases, government issued IDs to match up the individual that's applying for this assistance with those that had some sort of interest that's there. Now, I know a lot of times some of these documents may have been lost because of these floods. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go through this assistance procedure. It just means that you need help finding these documents. All right, you can get copies of these at your local courthouses, at your local government offices. A lot of these are recorded as well, and they're online so that you can print these off. You can download them. You can email them. This mostly pertains to deeds, certificates of title for vehicles, things along those natures that requires filings to show ownerships. If you need a copy of your lease or something along those lines, you can reach out to your landlord and they'll provide you with a copy of that as well. But just rest assured, if you don't have copies of these, there's ways to get them, and I promise it's not as difficult as it seems at this time. But you can get these documents, and you're going to need them as part of going through these procedures.
And I just want to echo what Corky was saying, because, in addition to having, lost your deed and other documents like that, it's very possible, very likely, and certainly has happened in this particular instance, that things like, birth certificates or vaccination records or things of that nature are also missing. And those are very accessible through the state of Texas as well. You can contact the Department of Vital Statistics. You can contact your doctor's office regarding vaccination records. I mean, the school year is coming up, and it's already a stressful enough time moving forward, but you may need these specific IDs, birth certificates, these types of records. And so in the process of working through this, be sure to check what you've got. And please remember that you can absolutely access these documents through government agencies to get updated copies of them so that you can start replacing items that have been lost.
Thank you. So based on what you guys have covered so far, it looks like the documents and pictures and all the information that you've suggested to have available for flood applications, flood claims, will also apply to the legal documents that someone would need to secure for FEMA and other disaster recovery assistance. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. It's a little bit different for what organization or what sort of assistance that you're there, but just as a general rule, it's important to have access to these documents, and you can recover them with relative ease.
Okay. And if someone needed assistance with walking through the FEMA application and disaster recovery assistance, like the mobile apps or the online websites for those particular groups, FEMA separate, and then other disaster recovery assistance that may be provided by the state or county, can your firm assist with completing the applications?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. We've worked with victims all across the Southeast for a number of disasters, and we're happy to help from start to finish, every step of the line, to make sure that if you're eligible for these programs, that you can get the assistance that you need.
Wonderful. Okay. Do you still have to pay your mortgage, rent, car note? And if renting a home or apartment, do you have any protection from eviction until you're able to pay rent? And Corky, I think you covered some of this earlier, but it's okay for it to be repeated.
Yeah, I'm going to touch base on this, but Corky's doing a great job covering a lot of this. The short answer to this question is typically yes. There are not currently any moratoriums on payments. So the best thing to do is always reach out to your lender, reach out to your landlord, because there are options that may be available. Many times, a lender will excuse a later missed payment or even discuss a possible forbearance with you. A forbearance, to be clear, is when you are allowed to stop making payments on a loan for a period of time. You just want to be sure that you get all of the communications with the lender in writing, so you've got documented, whether they're excusing, a penalty or late payment, whether they're putting the loan into forbearance. That way you've got it. Make sure you understand what those terms are. You want to ask, how long is the forbearance going to be for? And then how are the delayed payments addressed? Are they going to be spread out over time? Are they, meaning that the underlying payment may increase by some amount? Are they going to be expecting a balloon payment? You just want to be clear on what that is so that you're able to meet whatever obligation it is that you ultimately agree to with your lender. So if you're renting a home or an apartment, in terms of protection from eviction, there's not a moratorium on evictions at this moment in time. Again, I know that we've said this, and it's not comforting to hear that things are really continuing to move and change. So it is possible that something like this could come up. But again, and same thing with reaching out to a mortgage company, reach out to your landlord. Talk to them about rent payments, talk to them about any repairs that are needed. If the place is uninhabitable and you're not able to stay there, you're going to have rights under your lease that may allow you to terminate early without any penalties or fees. And also, it's incredibly important to know that just because you request repairs from your landlord, they're not allowed to evict you. That's considered retaliation. It is absolutely well within your rights to request repairs. You are well within your rights if the apartment or the home that you're renting is uninhabitable to terminate the lease. But again, if it's something that you're wanting to work through, it is always best to communicate. Communicate with the lender, communicate with the landlord, communicate with your car note holder. Communication is just absolutely key, because people are going to be willing to work with you if you open that door for them.
Thank you. So the next slides are pretty deep and heavy, but we'd like to cover them as well. What support is available for families who lost loved ones? And can you sue for wrongful death if a child, spouse, or family member died in the flood?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, our heartfelt condolences go out to everyone who's experienced a death because of this. It's always a tragedy, but it hits really close to home when something like this comes out of the blue. So, as far as what support is available for families who lost children, there's a myriad of opportunities that's out there. All right, you have the Red Cross. You've got other local organizations that provide mental health support. There's also chaplains within the National Guard that are deployed out to work in situations just like this. That's what they're there for. And they want to help you out. All right. Also, if you attend a church, they're great resources. You'd be surprised. There are churches from across the country that are donating time, effort, putting bodies on the ground just to work with there, just to be a support for everyone that's been affected by this. So don't be afraid to lean on your family, your friends, your community for support. We're all here to help out, and all we want to do is help you through this difficult situation. You know, you're not alone in this. No one is alone in this. We're all one state, one country, and we all come together in situations like this because many hands make light work. And we want to help you work through this as best as we can. Now, moving on to the potential for a wrongful death if your child died in the flood. Now, this is something, as a parent myself, I can only imagine the immense heartache and the loss that people are going through in a situation like this. But also, if my child died and it was through the fault of someone other than my child or through the causes of nature, this would be something that would concern me. Now, the answer to that question is maybe. And I'm not saying that just because I'm an attorney, but it all depends on the circumstances. All right. It all depends on the circumstances leading up to, surrounding, and concerning the death of your child. And every single one of these cases and individuals is case specific. All right. And it all boils down to negligence. All right. Did negligence exist? And did it exist on the part of an individual, an entity, or an organization that contributed to or omitted something that led to the death of your child? Now, again, this is something that's very case specific. One case may be very different from the other. One circumstance may qualify, another circumstance may not. But it's important to remember, in the state of Texas, a wrongful death has a time limit. It's what we attorneys refer to as the statute of limitations. And it starts running the date of death. So from the date of a child's death, you have 2 years to bring a claim for wrongful death. So if this is ever any concern or it presents itself to anyone that lost a child in these circumstances, please, please, please speak with an attorney as soon as you're able to do so, because like I said, the clock is already ticking on a lot of these cases. And I believe the last question is, when is probate required in Texas? Again, it's such an unfortunate tragedy that everybody's been through, but that doesn't mean that there are necessities that don't exist. All right. So when is probate required in Texas? It's most of the time. Most of the time, if someone passes away, whether they have a will or don't have a will, you'll need to have a probate proceeding. And the sooner you get started on it, the better it is for everyone. Now, one exception to this is if you have a trust. If you have a trust and everything you own is in that trust, this will normally be a circumstance where you can operate without the need of a probate proceeding. All right. If you have a will, it allows the court to validate that will, and it allows the intentions of the will, which are how property is to be distributed, how the estate is supposed to be distributed. It allows it to proceed as the will so designated. Now, if you don't have a will, which is the other circumstance that I brought up, there's still a probate proceeding that's necessary. All right. This resolves disputes. This allows chain of title to continue on. Now, there are other instances where you may not have to go through a probate proceeding. Like, for instance, if there aren't any debts, or you're just trying to collect property from a bank, from a financial institution, an investment thing, you may be able to proceed under what's known as a monument of title or a small estate affidavit, things of that nature. But those are limited circumstances. And again, they're case specific depending on value, depending on the type of asset and things like that. Now, once this probate is completed, the court issues an order. That order is recorded, and then you can use that to transfer title to certain assets, whether it be through real estate or personal property that requires a title.
Thank you, Corky. If pets were harmed or lost in the flood, will insurance pay for veterinary treatment or compensation for loss or death?
Hi, so this is Catherine. If you have pet insurance, most certainly you will have access for insurance to be able to pay for that sort of treatment. Otherwise, typically the answer is no. They are typically not covered under your homeowner's insurance policy. That being said, one thing that we did want to point out was that your homeowner's insurance may cover an additional living expense. So if you've been displaced and you've had to leave your home, and your homeowner's insurance provides for that additional living expense, and you do have a pet, then your policy may cover you to be in a pet-friendly place. Similar to what we've been talking about here with other issues and other resources. Again, in terms of being specific to your pets, you want to check with local resources, check with shelters, check with the vet clinics in your area, because in terms of being able to provide cost-reduced services or be able to assist you with any other costs related, say if they were injured, you're having a lack of access to food and water, they may be able to help you out in that area.
Thank you. How can you protect yourself from fraud or scams targeting disaster victims?
So there's definitely several ways that you can do this, and Corky and I have talked about this. This is a really unfortunate side effect of all natural disasters. There will be contractors and other people purporting to be helpful, purporting to provide resources, when they are not in the business of really doing that. And there's a couple of things to keep in mind in terms of dealing with a contractor. So you're having repairs done to your home or to a car that was damaged in the flood, or any other sort of physical property. You want to do your research. You want to select, you want to try to get multiple bids if possible. And remember that price gouging in a disaster is illegal. It is fraud. It is very, very important to keep that in mind. It may sound silly, but if it doesn't pass the sniff test, that's probably for a reason. And there's definitely resources through the Texas Attorney General's office that you can find online that will help you in terms of spotting fraud. You also want to know what is available to you legally. Corky's talked a lot about SBA loans, FEMA, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, and local authorities. Sticking within what it is that that you're seeing routinely and consistently providing resources, those are going to be your safest bets. If it's something outside of that, if it's something that you haven't heard of before, talk to someone, ask questions, do your research, do your research about it. And keep in mind, when it comes to providing relief, especially monetary relief, like through FEMA or SBA, none of these organizations no true charities, no true local resources, they're not going to be asking you for money up front. So anyone who's trying to ask you for money up front in exchange for some sort of relief is likely going to be a scam. And remember, if you've got a question, go to the Texas Attorney General's office. And in addition to reporting these scams, which is very important because you can help save someone else from having to deal with this, you can also get additional tips about what to be on the lookout for. But again, just keep in mind, do multiple bids, do your research if it's possible, ask around. No one's going to be asking you for money up front, and price gouging is absolutely illegal.
And Catherine, I just wanted to add one thing. You hit on it very well about making sure that you report it so that it doesn't happen to others. It's also important to report it so that the law enforcement can address it. Because I think everyone's familiar with Ken Paxton. And if Ken Paxton has shown one thing, that if there's something that he doesn't like, he's going to come after it with the fury of the Lord. And so if this gets reported to his office, they are absolutely going to go after it with the full force of the government. So it's important to make sure that things like this don't happen. And the best way to do it is to report it if you see it.
Yeah, and I want to say it's really unfortunate that we even, have to have the conversation, but the truth is that there are going to be people targeting these individuals who are in an extremely vulnerable situation, and you want to do everything that you can to protect yourself. So just be aware, talk to people, have open lines of communication, and be on the lookout. And like I said, as silly as it may sound, and it is not a silly subject at all, but if it doesn't pass a sniff test, if in your gut you don't think it's right, it probably isn't.
Thank you. That's very valuable information. So our final question, and you guys feel free to be open-ended on this, since it's based on your experience with other victims of natural disasters, but what have you learned from representing other flood victims?
I'll go ahead and take this one first. I've learned a few very important lessons. Oftentimes you hear folks complain about the government, whether they're right or left, old or young, red or blue, is that, there's certain aspects of the government that don't work for you. And this is one instance where you do see your government work for you. And so there's a lot of people that are volunteering. There's paid government workers that are out there. And this process is specifically designed for this, and it moves in an expedited manner. While it probably doesn't seem like it does, it moves so much faster than everything else that's out there. And there's so many people that want to help. And so I know a lot of times there is this feeling of exasperation, there's a feeling of desolation, and there's a feeling of uncertainty about everything. And so I remember an old speech from John F. Kennedy where he said, "A 1,000-mile journey always begins with the first step." And so taking that first step in addressing, whether it be assistance, whether it be help, whether it be for funding, whether it be for anything that you need, taking that first step, you'll realize very quickly how, and I'm not going to say it's easy, but how much better this process is there, and how many available remedies there are for anyone seeking any sort of help. I will say, on the same vein, sometimes in dealing with your insurance, whether it be homeowners, whether it be through flood, there are going to be instances where you may get denied. There may be instances where they don't want to pay for the full amount of things, whether it be for your house, whether it be for a car, whether it be for a business. There are remedies that are available to you. You don't just have to take that lying down. Like I said, as a firm, we've helped people dispute insurance claims, whether it be through flood, homeowners, car insurance. business interference insurance, things like that. There are remedies that are available to you. And so if you go through that, don't wait. Don't decide, 2 years after it's denied that you want to move forward with it. Address those problems head on and stay with it through the process, because there's a remedy that's available for almost every situation. And so don't be disheartened if there's a bump on the road, because there's always an extra step you can take.
And I want to echo what Corky said. That's absolutely true. And I would say one of the things that I've learned is just generally how resilient people are and how giving those around you can be. This is a tough, tough, tough time. It's an unimaginable time. Hearts are broken, families are broken. But I am always amazed and so proud when I see how communities band together to try to help one another. It makes me very proud to be a lawyer, and it makes me very happy that I've got the ability and work for a firm that has the ability to be able to assist individuals. We don't oftentimes get to do things of this nature, and the goal being that hopefully we never do. But the sad reality is that these things do happen, and it's in moments like these where it's wonderful to be able to have a skill set to be able to help those that have been impacted in ways that are absolutely unimaginable. And again, like I said, it just makes my heart swell to see how people come together to try to assist one another. And like Corky said, you should absolutely remember you are not alone in this at all. There are resources available to you through the government, state, and federal level. There are lawyers, there is legal assistance available, there are family and friends. No one is alone in this, and we're all here together to be able to get through this.
Yeah,
Thank you both. A huge thank you to Katherine and Corky of the Dooley Noted Law Firm for giving us this information. We deeply appreciate the time, insight, and expertise you've shared with us today. Corky, did you want to add something?
I was just going to give a parting remark. Just like Katherine said, just like you said, is that you're not in this alone. And we're doing this, and everybody that's involved in this process of trying to help, we're doing this because we love our fellow man. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but we want to see everybody get through this. This is a difficult time for everybody, and everybody across the country, the outpouring that's coming, whether it's from Florida, New York, Kansas, California, even Hawaii, people are reaching out wanting to help. So don't ever, ever, ever be afraid to ask for help, because that's what we want to do, because we genuinely care about your well-being and we want to see you get through this.
Thank you. You guys' contribution has been invaluable for us today, and we hope the knowledge that you've provided will reach and empower those who need it most. We so appreciate your time. LegalEASE, supporting our communities with recovery assistance. For help, contact us at 888-416-4313, or you can reach us online at golegaleaseplan.com/recovery assistance. These services extend to our legal plan members, non-member employees, and anyone that needs assistance, including extended family members and friends.